Namaste, friends. Suswagatam and welcome to our Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom, Gyan Ganga, on our Virat Hindustan social media channels. We celebrated the Independence Day and Krishna Janmashtami, and we are back with our important and a very topical program, Lessons from Mahabharata for Indians Today. And Dr. Swamy, in the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll have a discussion and talk on this subject. Today is episode number 168, which Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga Virat Hindustan Sangam hosts every Sunday across the globe for viewers. Last episode, India at 75, which was on the eve of Independence Day, we had a viewership of 1,16,233 members watching the program from across the globe, and we thank our viewers for your patronage. I have to thank my co-host, Professor Arvind Chaturvedi from Delhi, and Ramesh Swamy, and also our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Tejas Navalgul, Ishwar Iyer, Swaminathan, Rakesh Gadgi, Vishal Mehta, and Ajesh Nair for their support to put all this program together every Sunday. So, with these words, I'm going to hand over the mic to Dr. Swamy. But before that, I have to tell our viewers, many of them send us messages that how do we can see the past episodes. I tell them that please go to YouTube and type out the Virat Hindustan Sangam section, and you'll get all our past episodes of 167 episodes of Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom, and also you will get, we had legal words of wisdom, which we used to do it on Saturday. All that is available on YouTube, Virat Hindustan Sangam section. So with these words, it's over to Dr. Swamy to tell us the lessons from Mahabharata for Indian today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagdish. First of all, my name is Swamy. That doesn't mean that I am. It's a religious title. It's we South Indians all have Swamy. We've got Ramesh here. He's also Ramesh Swamy. So I'm speaking on a matter on which, like anyone else, if I can explain to people in simple language, that's why, because Mahabharata is an extremely important thing for us in our culture. And Mahabharata, of course, there are three parts to it. One is the entire story of Mahabharata and leading up to the war, which is the Mahabharata war. And in between, there is this Bhagavad Gita, which arises out of conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So let me begin by saying that the dates or the date of Mahabharata is, has been in the past under controversy, and the Westerners, bringing it down to AD, and our people taking it up to BC. But the best way to get the date of, say, the Mahabharata war, when it started, it lasted 18 days, by the way. When it was started, the Puranas, which very few people bother to even look or read, the Puranas have the astrological or the astronomical positions of stars and planets, for everything. For instance, you want to know which dynasty was there before Ashoka's dynasty, so on. You can go to the Puranas. Puranas will tell you, and then from the position of the stars or the planets, you can derive the calendar dates from it. So if you go by that, the Mahabharata war is supposed to have started in February of 3102 and lasted 18 days. So it's as far back as that. So 2000 of ours, almost 5,000 years ago, it has happened. And of course, we know that it's real because Hastinapur is there. It's maybe in ruins, but is there near Meerut. Indraprastha is Delhi. And this is a thing that really happened. And we need now to see it from our current perspective, what Mahabharata is all about. Now, so there are two aspects I have to deal with. One is the Mahabharata itself, and from it to draw certain lessons. And then, of course, the message of Gita. How is it relevant for us today in working on it? So, on that basis, I'd like to start with really before I get into the Mahabharata story itself and its implications and lessons. I'd like to deal with the Bhagavad Gita aspect, because there, how to conduct yourself is given by Krishna to Arjuna. And Arjuna asks so many questions, and and Krishna gives replies, and these have to be absorbed and followed. And I can tell you, I've tried to follow it, and I've been therefore always happy, in the sense I've been, all my ups and downs have made no difference to my attitude and my behavior and so on. And those who know me know that they've never seen me in depression, because I believe in having learnt from Gita how you can overcome all these diversions of your mind that are created by events. So, starting with that, first I'd like to say that Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and these chapters, you can't read from beginning to end like a book. But if you need a teacher generally, and if not teacher, a very good book. And the one that I found really very simple in terms of explanations and so on in English, for those who don't know Sanskrit. For that, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, the one who was in Coimbatore, because there are two Dayanand Saraswatis. One about 100 years ago, and who founded the Arya Samaj movement. But Dayanand Saraswati, who was originally placed his ashram in Coimbatore, and then went all over India and created the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, which is the first of its kind, and it's still existing. But because he's not no more, that kind of electric push that he used to give is lacking at the moment. But it's surviving, and there are programs and so on. So for the first time, all the sadhus, sannyasis of more than 100 years, of mutts with the more than 100 years standing, have become members of that Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha. Now, in that, from reading from his book, what we get is that in chapter 2, for example, let me read out chapter 2 and go to shloka 34. So, chapter 2, 34, what it says is, Krishna says to Arjuna that, first of all, he persuades him that he must not lay down arms because your relatives are on the other side. This is dharmic and so on. And he said that in keeping with dharma, you have to fight, and that is in shloka 34 and of chapter 2. And he said that you will be completely destroyed reputation-wise and so on. And you have to fight, because time has come for fighting. And when you fight, you cannot back off. So then he says that in order to be happy, you must take pleasure and pain. And I must say that, it may look very ordinary to say it, but if you practice it, and I have tried to practice it to the maximum, you become a very happy person. You are never, swayed by events then. So what he says in chapter 38, shloka 38 in chapter 2, that taking pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat to be the same, you prepare for a battle. this you will, by this you will gain no sin. So this is a advice you give. What you learn from Gita is what you're learning from Mahabharata, and that is this. And then he says in a subsequent thing where he talks about, you see, when you're saying that you have to fight, you just see when we were dealing with China, it was, and today again, it is not a question of right and wrong, whether we'll win or lose, are we strong, should we, what should do. Chinese have actually attacked you. They have crossed the line. So Gita's advice would be, or Krishna's advice would be, either you prepare for war or you go to war. But to hesitate, here and there into the kind of debates we see, is absolutely wrong. So he is, if you go by Gita, today if you apply it to the situation that we are facing, I would say that we should either prepare for war if you are not being prepared so far, or you should decide to go to war. So in Shloka 47 of the same chapter, which is called the Sankhya Yoga chapter, your choice, Lord Krishna says, is in action only, never in the results thereof. This is something, if you can develop in your life, you will never be unhappy with failure and or too much too elated by success. So he says, choice is only in action, never in results thereof. Do not think you're the author of the results of action. That's the best part. He said, let your attachment not to be to inaction, but do not think that you are the author of the result of the action. That is decided by him, by Lord Krishna, that means God. So this is and this is what he says, the evenness of mind is really what is yoga. Now, we are, therefore, when you say those who perform actions only for results are misers and will be always in unhappiness. So if you go on saying result, of course you're working for result, no question about it. You got a goal, you work for results, but you don't get attached to that result, because the result is not finally in your hands. You can prepare for action, you can be deserving of results of victory, but the final result will be decided by God. This is what Krishna is saying. So now this is a very important thing, because we are dealing with a situation where people today, when they fail an exam, they get very depressed, some commit suicide, and the parents also tell them that this is the important thing. You should educate your children, you should educate your people, please, to say that you do your best, and we'll know that you have done your best. And it doesn't matter what the results are. You have worked for the best result, but the best result not come, and you're not responsible. So that kind of an attitude, if you develop in real life, then you will be a happy person. And so this is, I think, we need to adopt. Now, similarly, let me tell you something very, very interesting. If you go to chapter 18, and there you see it's probably the best chapter, it's the last chapter. And in one sense, it's the best chapter, where Krishna summarizes the whole message. And he first starts by saying that the Varna system has got nothing to do with birth. It is your gunas. And then he goes on in chapter 41, in shloka number 41, in chapter 18, he says the duties of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Sudras, Arjuna, are divided according to the qualities born of Swabhava. That is, he says that if you are born with that inclination then you can be one of these. In other words, it's gunas that decide how how you are to be classified, not birth. So for years, because of the degeneration that happened with the invasions and so on, and people in order to protect themselves, they made it into a birth-based thing. Of course, there's nothing wrong if a child of a Brahmin becomes a Brahmin, but he must have that guna, the guna of the Brahmin, which he also describes. What are the gunas that he should have? He says composure, restraint, religious discipline, cleanliness, accommodation, rectitude, knowledge, assimilated knowledge, accepting veracity of Vedas are collectively the duties born of nature of a Brahmin. So the Brahmin must have these qualities. Then he'll be a person should have these qualities. It doesn't matter where he was born, he will be a Brahmin. So Vishwamitra, for example, was born in a Kshatriya family, but he had these qualities. His teachers realized that, and he became a Maharishi. Vedavyasa was born of a fisherwoman, and yet he became a Maharishi. So we have got lots of examples. Kalidasa in the forests. Even Valmiki was supposed to be born of Dalit parents, and he became the writer of Maharishi, of course, and the writer of Ramayana. So this then he similarly says valor, self-confidence, resolve, adroitness, not running away from conflict, giving an overlordship are natural born duties and a disposition of a Kshatriya. Similarly, it describes both Vaishyas and Sudras based on agriculture and wealth collection. So therefore, I would like now to propagate this, you see. What is we have divided, why these Hindus have gone up and divided themselves in this caste business. And this caste business, I've seen people who are working in Bata Shoe Company and coming and telling me, I am also a Brahmin like you. I say, no, I don't accept that. You are working for a commercial firm. So what is wrong if you say I'm a Vaishya? There's nothing wrong. There's no ranking in our caste system. So this is the lesson that I would like our people to learn. Don't make caste as something, something God-given. It's not. It's your ability to perform certain actions, and that is what needs to be done. This is the way that Krishna says. Now, Krishna says something else also very interesting. He says at one place, and this is something which is typically Hindu. It's got no other religion will have this. No other religion, I'm telling you right now, no religion. He says in shloka number 63 that the knowledge that is more secret than any secret was told by me to you. Then what does he say to Krishna, to Arjuna? Considering this thoroughly, you may do just as you wish. God is not saying follow this. He says, I have taught you, but you may do as you wish. I am not forcing you to do this or that. And that is an amazing thing to say. In no other religion you will find this. And then he goes on to say, Krishna says, this teaching which has been taught to you is never to be taught to one who has no religious discipline, nor to one who has no devotion, nor to one who is not willing to listen, nor to one who finds fault with me, that is God, when there is none, where there is no fault to be found. So here is Krishna who is explaining very, very clearly that first of all, you may do what you like. I'm not, as God, I'm not asking you. And this, by the way, in his Vishwarupa, he was there. I mean, he was Arjuna knew he was dealing with God. And finally, for society, he says, Krishna says, where there is Krishna and where there is Arjuna, there is wealth, victory, various riches, and definite justice. This is my conclusion. This is what Krishna concludes Gita with. Now, what does that mean? What is Arjuna? Warrior. What is Krishna? Knowledge. So, where knowledge and and the desire, the readiness to fight, they come together, that society is the optimum society. So it's no use unless we know when to fight. If we are not capable of fighting, if we are just peace, and end up with that, you will never be a society. So Gita teaches you to not only be prosperous, not only to have comfortable life, but be ready to fight for certain values. So you start with that, and I would say that the first thing you have to learn from Gita, Mahabharata, is read Gita. And you can't read from page 1 to page this thing. It has to be selective, like I was selective with you. But over a period of time, you'll know every chapter, everything. There are so many chapters that things I have not brought to you, and because there is a question of shortage of time. So now I come to 5 lessons in particular you have to learn from Mahabharata. First is, what have you know? If you have read the Mahabharata, then you know that what it ultimately says is quality is superior to quantity. When Krishna was both Arjuna and Duryodhana went to Krishna, and they both wanted Krishna's support. So he said, either you take my army or you take me. Duryodhana immediately said, I'll take the army. Thinking that, what is Krishna without an army? But Arjuna said, I want you. And that is because he selected Krishna and not the army. Therefore, the Pandavas won the Mahabharata war. So, lesson number 1, please always look for the quality. Don't say, in politics people say, he's got a huge amount, the entire caste is behind him. Nah, that's fine, the entire caste is behind him, it's okay. But has he got quality? Has he got the desire to improve the nation? Has he got the desire to bring about a unity in the nation? These are the qualities that you should look first. Then whether he has. I would prefer Ambedkar any day, because he was a man, I'm sorry to say we have not honored him enough. He got a PhD in economics in 1916 from Columbia University. And it was a highly rated PhD thesis in economics. Then he went to London and got his law degree, and he wrote he literally monitored the formation of our constitution. But we never honored him. Jawaharlal Nehru made sure that the 3 Lok Sabha elections he fought, all 3 lost his deposit by removing all his party workers from the booths, and doing the usual tigdam that one does in an election, and defeated him. And it was not Congress which gave him the Bharat Ratna. It was the Janata in 1990. Sardar Patel also, of course, by the way, I myself filled out the form and made the file to send it to Chandrasekhar in 1991. Sardar Patel, the man who created India, he didn't get the Bharat Ratna. So, in our country, we don't recognize what Gita teaches us. So, first of all is that. So, first is quality over quantity. Second is learning never ends. That was the difference between the Kauravas, Duryodhan, and Arjuna. Please go and check Mahabharata, read it. Arjuna went to Indra, he went to all rishis to learn, prepare for the war. And he did tapasya for the day. Therefore, he understood, and he was made to understand also by Krishna that he has to learn this, and he learned it. And giving this learning that no matter how good you are, how brave you are, how many seats you have won in the Lok Sabha, it doesn't matter. You have to keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. And so this is then the next lesson to be learned: never go to war with half knowledge. What happened to Abhimanyu's son? Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna? He went from the Chakravyuh, he knew how to get into it. It's not his fault. His father only taught him that. He couldn't teach him the other part because he was teaching him when he was in his mother's womb. And then it was interrupted by something, and Krishna and Arjuna went away, and he never taught him how to get out of the Chakravyuh. And that is exactly what happened. He managed to get in, but once he got in, they all surrounded him and killed him. So knowledge is to be constantly augmented, and never settle for half knowledge. This is the then the motivation for doing anything, including war, is by the shloka that comes out in the Mahabharata, which says that the shloka says that you have to, the exact words used were that you have to therefore not concentrate on the fruits. You work for the fruit, but you make sure that you are working towards that in a proper way. That motivation is extremely important. The result should be there. Result is a goal, but you have to work for it. When Karna's chariot got stuck in the mud, Krishna said, "Go and kill him," to Arjuna. And Arjuna said, "I'm a Kshatriya. How can I go and kill him when he is down? His chariot is down. He put his weapons down, and he is pulling the chariot out of the mud." He said, when he was watching Draupadi being stripped, did you that time say, did you talk about the Shishtachar that time? Go and kill him now. Then only Arjuna went and killed him and did what is not done in so-called Kshatriya bravery. So guerrilla warfare, for example, is till Mao Zedong made it more popular in the 20th century. It's not a cowardice. It's not. In a war, there is no such thing as this is morally correct and that is morally. You have to win. If you get into war, then you have to win no matter what the cost is. So these are the kinds of things which are there in the Gita, and I'm no scholar in this, but I follow it, I read it, I regularly read it. My opinion is that you should be able to, whenever you find spare time, just open a Gita, some page, read it. Some it'll stick, some it will not stick. But in the process, you will be able to. It'll It's called in physics as osmosis. Osmosis, the whole climate will come on you, and you will become a person who follow Gita, and you will never be unhappy. You will be never too happy also. That also is taught to you. And you will achieve what you want because your mind is all the time steady, and because of the teachings of Gita. This is what I would like to say. Now, if any of my colleagues would like to add something and correct me if I'm wrong in something, this is the time for you to do it.
Dr. Swamy, can you concise this world? I know it is a fantastic introduction that you've given. For the benefit of our viewers who listen to, a large portion of viewers who listen in Hindi, can you just compress this in about like a 5-minute thing?
In Hindi?
Yes, sir.
Yes. मैंने गीता का प्रवचन देने की जगह में मैंने गीता में जो लिखी हुई श्लोक है उनको मैंने छांट के सामने रखा, क्योंकि जो हमारे पास जो समय है वो सीमित है, तो इसीलिए मैंने सोचा कि जो आपके लिए तुरंत आपकी मंशा में एक ये बीज जैसा मैं लगा सकता हूँ, वो अच्छा होगा। गीता में अर्जुना ने शुरू में गीता की आवश्यकता इसीलिए पड़ी कि अर्जुना ने हथियार डाल दी, कहना मैं कैसे मेरे रिश्तेदारों की खून निकाल सकता हूँ, जिनको जैसे भीष्माचार्य हैं, द्रोणाचार्य तो मेरे टीचर थे, मेरे अध्यापक थे, इन लोगों को मैं कैसे मार सकता हूँ, मुझे ये नहीं चाहिए। तो कृष्णा ने उनको फिर प्रवचन किया। प्रवचन में उन्होंने बताया कि ये तुम्हारी अहंकार है, ये जो युद्ध हुआ है ये तूने शुरू की, ये युद्ध हुआ क्योंकि बड़े अन्याय हुए हैं, और इस अन्याय को मिटाने के लिए और और जिन लोगों ने ये अन्याय किया उनको दंड देने के लिए ये युद्ध है। और इसीलिए इसमें मेरा क्या, तुम्हारा क्या, मेरा रिश्ता क्या, ये कुछ नहीं देखना, ये तो पहली जो उन्होंने दिया है। मुझे लोग कहते थे कि तुम इतने अच्छे मित्र थे चाइना का, अब तो बड़े सख्त विरोधी हो गए। मैंने कहा हमारे देश की ज़मीन को ले ली, इससे बड़ा धोखा क्या होगा। इसमें मेरा कोई दोस्ती वोस्ती होता नहीं है। मैं तो राष्ट्र के लिए जो सबसे उचित है उस समय मुझे लगा कि दोनों अच्छे रिश्ते होंगे तो हमारे देश के लिए अच्छी होगी। तो मैं उदाहरण देता हूँ कि मैंने ये गीता से ही सीखा है कि हमारी जो विचारें हैं वो उसमें मैं नहीं आनी चाहिए। और जब आप इस प्रकार से सोचते हैं मैं ऐसा नहीं कर सकता, वैसा तुम्हारे कर्तव्य है, उस कर्तव्य को पूरा करनी है, और ये मूल है। और इस मूल के आधार पर उन्होंने कहा कि कई चीज़ें उन्होंने कहा, और उसको धीरे धीरे पढ़ के ही आप सीख सकते हो। उन्होंने बताया, यहाँ तक कृष्ण भगवान ने कहा कि एक श्लोका में जो 18 चैप्टर में है, 18 अध्याय में है, उसमें उन्होंने 63 श्लोका में 63 नंबर की श्लोका में कहा है कि मैंने सच कुछ जो भी न जानता था मैंने बता दिया आपको। ये भगवान कह रहा है, लेकिन जो आपको ठीक लगता वही करो। ये नहीं कहता कि मैं भगवान हूँ, मैंने आपको यानी उपदेश दिया है, इसको आप करो, ऐसा नहीं कहा। जो मैंने अब आपको जो ठीक लगता है वो करो। ये है हिंदुओं की जो असली आधार। हम कभी किसी के ऊपर थोपा नहीं, हमारी धर्म, हमारी जो उपासना पद्धति है, हमने किसी पर थोपा नहीं। और हमने यही कहा कि तुम्हारे रास्ते हमारे रास्ते, दोनों जाएंगे भगवान के पास। तुम्हारा आस्था जाएगा, मेरा तेजी से जाएगा, तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है। तो ये इस श्लोका में उन्होंने अपनी शिष्टाचार क्या होनी चाहिए, अपनी व्यवस्था क्या होनी चाहिए, उन्होंने बिल्कुल स्पष्ट कर दिया कि ब्राह्मण पैदा नहीं होता है, वो गुणों से होता है। उस गुणों का भी उन्होंने विवरण दिया है, क्षत्रिय का विवरण दिया है, वैश्य का दिया है और शूद्र का दिया है, और कहा कि ये कोई जन्म से जुड़ा हुआ नहीं है। आज ये हम सीख रहे हैं और सबको मान लें कि हम सब हिंदू हैं, और हम अपने कोई प्राध्यापक है तो उसको ब्राह्मण, कोई सेना में है तो वो क्षत्रिय, इस प्रकार से हम आ जाएंगे तो हमारी समाज एक हो जाएगी। तो गीता से आज उसकी आधुनिक जो एप्लीकेशन है उसको आप करोगे तो हमारी देश के लिए बहुत अच्छा होगा। युद्ध में भी उन्होंने ये कहा है कि तुम जीतोगे हारोगे ये तुम फैसला नहीं करोगे, ये मैं करूँगा, भगवान करेंगे। तो मैं करूँगा जब कृष्णा कहते हैं उसके माने भगवान करेगा। तुम्हारे है कर्तव्य पूरा करना, तुम्हारी है निष्ठा, इसके अनुसार आपको चलना है। और उसके परिणाम क्या होंगे, कितना भी आप लक्ष्य बनाइए अपने परिणाम की, परंतु परिणाम तो आप तय नहीं कर सकते हो, और उसमें दुखी होगे तो तुम मूर्ख हो। तो इस प्रकार से व्यवहार कैसा होना चाहिए, और यदि गीता को पढ़कर हम उसको समझ लें, उसको हजम कर लें, तो फिर मैं कहता हूँ कि जीवन में कभी आप दुखी नहीं होंगे। कितना भी चढ़ा गिरावट कितना भी हो, ये आपको दुखी नहीं कर सकता, और आप वास्तव में एक जो समाज में जो परिवर्तन लाने की जो क्षमता है वो आप में आ जाएगी। यही मूलतः मैंने बताई है, और इसके लिए तो गीता को पूरा समझाने के लिए तो महीनों लगेगी, और इसलिए आज मैं इससे चुनी बात, और मैंने बताया है कि ये श्लोका है। इसी प्रकार से आप भी ढूंढते जाइए। एक जगह में उन्होंने ये कहा है कि आपको सिर्फ कर्तव्य करना है, और दूसरी जगह में कहा कि सुख दुख के समय कृतवा लाभा लाभाओ जया जय, ये सब, ये सुख दुख ये सब एक ही चीज़ है, और इसको आपकी मंशा होनी चाहिए कि हाँ ये भी होता है, ये भी होता है। ना बहुत संतुष्ट हो जब सुख होता है, या बहुत दुखी हो जब दुख होता है। ये एक सभ्य व्यक्ति का पहचान नहीं होगी। ये अनेक चीज़ें हैं, और गीता को पढ़ना उसमें से मैंने इसीलिए छांट के कहा है कि ताकि आपको भी दिलचस्पी होगी कि भाई पूरा पढ़ के हम भी कुछ इसकी सीखें। यही मैं कहना चाहता हूँ।
Dr. Swamy, one more thing from Gita, you've learned a lot of life lessons, but in Mahabharata part, people can see, you've mentioned this many times, the guilelessness of Shakuni, how he's destroyed it. 2, the greed. 3, the lack of courage, right? I mean, there are so many other lessons purely by watching what is unfolding, right? I mean, if you look at the current situation today, a lot of this perspectives, like be it guile, be it greed, lack of coverage, be it, looking at what are the greater interests. And even, okay, how do we compare that, and what can the Indians in future learn? I mean, in the sense, they're all watching this, they're saying, okay, nothing can be done, like what you said at the beginning. Oh, China is too big, we can't fight with it. Such a defeatist attitude, just like what Pandavas thought. They said, oh, we can't defeat the Kaurava army. At the end of the day, when they had Dharma on their side, when you felt that what was right is on your side, might doesn't matter, like what you said, quantity doesn't matter, quality. Are we seeing the same thing getting played out today? And what can the Indians do from this?
Absolutely. When you start saying everything is the leader, then you will become weak. You have to analyze even the leader. Today's system, we select the leader, but doesn't mean that once you've selected him, he has got carte blanche. See, Krishna, I tell you, this will take the years and years if I have to go on reciting everything I know about Gita. Uddhav was his friend after the Mahabharata war was over, and in Dwarka, he had gone back to Dwarka, Krishna. So they were walking together, and Uddhav said, I want to ask you one question. Why didn't you come earlier to save Draupadi? You came at the last minute when she was being humiliated and her sari was being pulled. Why didn't you come earlier? You were there. Krishna himself says one or two places that I was there, watching all this happening, all the cheating that Shakuni was doing. So he said, she only prayed for me at that last stage when the sari was almost coming off. Otherwise, before that, she went to Bhishmacharya and said, please save me. You know, Draupadi went to her own husbands and saying, please save me. And when nobody could save me, then she called me. So I came only at that stage. She didn't call me earlier. So like that, there are so many questions that can be asked, and Krishna has answered them. That is not there in the Gita, but you can get it. If you get a complete volume of Mahabharata, you will get it. And when Krishna went to Duryodhana, and then they had this discussion. He said, "Okay, give them 5 villages," and Duryodhana said, "No, not even the tip of the needle, etc." When he came back, Draupadi was very angry with him. She said, all this humiliation took of me, and all you could think of is some compromise and all that, and even that he was rudely rejected. Why couldn't you say that what you did to Draupadi is unforgivable, and therefore we have to go to war? So he said, war means so many people dying. What am I supposed to, how are you going to explain this to the people, especially those who have lost their husbands and who have suffered great deal of humiliation during the war? You can't say that because Draupadi's sari was pulled, therefore we had a war. So there you will get your revenge, you will get your blood from Dushasan and all that. But it should not be known as a war because of your sari being taken away. I mean, these are nuggets which you get only by reading the complete Mahabharata. And this is wisdom. After all, if tomorrow we are going to war with China, we are not going to say our self-respect is involved. We are going to say that Bharat Mata, you betrayed us on Bharat Mata. So the way to present it is it comes out very clearly with the way Krishna explains.
I'm going to try my Hindi question, Dr. Swamy. The first time I'm trying.
Another Madrasi trying Hindi.
हिंदी तो जो अभी वो धृतराष्ट्र के दरबार में इतने बड़े बड़े लोग बैठे हुए थे, द्रोणाचार्य, भीष्माचार्य, सब चुप है. अभी जो हम देख रहे हैं वही हाल है. आप
सही बात.
तो ये व्हाट इज द सॉल्यूशन? इसका सॉल्यूशन क्या है? क्यों ऐसा अभी उस टाइम पे द्रोणाचार्य और भीष्मा और जो भी बड़े बड़े लोग बैठे थे, कर्णा भी बैठे थे, वो जो
ये हमारे स्कूल में महाभारत पढ़ा दो, रामायण पढ़ा दो, कोई ऐसा नहीं होगा. हमारी सिर्फ यही सिखाते हैं कि भाई तुम्हारे IBM में जाना है, कोई यूनाइटेड नेशन में जाना है, उसके लिए ये सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना होगा, वो सब्जेक्ट पढ़ना, यही है और कुछ नहीं है. हमारी शिक्षा में तो कुछ नहीं सिखा रहे हैं. तो मैं ये कहता हूँ कि आज हमारे ऐसे ही हैं जैसे वो समय थे. ये वही कारण है. आखिर में मैं समझता हूँ कि ये गीता, ये सारी चीज़ों को हमारे करिकुलम में लाने की आवश्यकता है. ये डरना
चला
नहीं,
गया।
ये डरना नहीं चाहिए कि हिंदू है तो ये सारे माइनॉरिटी भड़क जाएंगे। अरे इसमें हिंदुइज्म क्या है? वो कोई ये नहीं कहता कि ये भगवान को पूजा करो और ये पूजा में ये सामग्री होनी चाहिए, ऐसा तो नहीं है। ये तो युद्ध के बारे है, शिष्टाचार के बारे है, ये सारी चीजें तो सेक्युलर ही है। तो गीता और रामायण पढ़ाएंगे स्कूलों में तो इसमें कोई कम्प्यूटर कुछ होता नहीं है।
तो धर्म तो कम होते ही रह रहे हैं डॉक्टर स्वामी जी। इफ यू लुक एट विमेन्स राइट्स, वो जो नारियों का जो हाल है आज का, बहुत सारे हम लोग सुन रहे हैं कि न्यूज पे, तो वो कम हो रहा है। और ये बेसिक वो भी धैर्य, बेसिक इफ यू वांट टू से हिम्मत, वो तो कम होते ही रह रहे हैं। क्यों? बट वन सिल्वर लाइनिंग, सॉरी टू शिफ्ट इन इंग्लिश बिकॉज आई कांट स्पीक टू मच इन इंग्लिश, is that Hindutva, the concept of Hinduness, or if you not in terms of mentality, that we have to protect that part, is rising. See, like for example, this Bollywood is trying some nonsense against the Hindus. They're getting really shown the door by the public at large. So there is the public is doing what they're trying to do, but unfortunately the leadership lacks the same courage and will.
Is going into politics a desirable activity in our country?
No, not now.
I have faced nothing but the people telling me, why are you giving up Harvard professorship to go to this rotten politics?
Mm-hmm.
Unless politics are cleaned up, nothing can be cleaned up in this country. I can tell you, or any country. That's what Mahabharata also teaches you. See, by implication.
Somebody is asking a question: who is playing Vidurji in the current situation? You're watching the show, I think, so you can make the judgment. But okay, Jagdish ji or Arvind ji, go ahead.
Dr. Swamy, you mentioned that about Gita and Mahabharata and Ramayana should be taught in schools. In fact, there are a large number of management lessons which can be drawn from Mahabharata. And the current day management experts are actually writing a lot of material, books and papers on what all we can learn from Mahabharata and Ramayana as management lessons. For example, you said Mahabharata. Mahabharata was a fight between unwilling people and people who are ready to force a war. As you just now said, even at the last minute, Yudhishthir was trying to avoid the war, and he said, "Give me 5 villages." Or Krishna took this message to the Kauravas, but they did not agree. They were unwilling, not because they were weak. Of course, in terms of proportion, they were slightly weaker, but in terms of alliances that they have had. 5 Pandav brothers, their family members, and the relations. I mean, for example, Draupadi's parents' side, Panchal, and Abhimanyu's parents-in-law, and so on and so forth. The alliances they had gathered, which was enough to match the Kauravas. They could have done it earlier also, but they were not willing. So this is basically fight between arrogant people and people who are having power but not willing to go for violence.
Yeah, precisely what I said. When time for war comes, there's no question of. It's there in Gita also. You don't worry about whose family has been hit, who has lost what. War is a way when you have no other alternative. War is something that you must do without thinking about all this. Yes, it's there in the Gita itself. But then you'll have to have a 2-hour lecture if you want everything. And not
one more thing I wanted to ask, Dr. Swamy. Whatever description has been given of the Mahabharata war in the epic about the kind of weaponry that was used, it was such similar to very scientifically developed modern day weaponry. So basically, can we say the science of military science was much more developed during Mahabharata period as it is today?
Towards the end of the war, um, whoever was left of the Kauravas wanted to use the atom bomb.
Right.
And Krishna had to explain, all of them saying, please don't do it. You know how much loss. And all the descriptions there are exactly of the atom bomb.
Right.
And it
This was
will,
one thing. Yeah.
it will, not only the explosion will be damaging, but the what comes out of it will be, same thing with with Raman. How did he fly in an aeroplane? Today
Yes.
we know there is a treatise called Vimana Shastra,
Yes.
where they say that the fuel will be mercury. You go and ask any aeronautical engineer, he'll say yes, but the mercury will take another 100 years before it is converted. But it is a fuel, no doubt about it. Because it's so you just put one drop of mercury, how much energy is generated. So, I mean, obviously, it was there. We have lost it on the way.
The missiles, the
Yeah.
anti-war missile or the anti-missile
Yes.
weapons.
Yeah. Absolutely. No.
And it
Dr.
was
Swamy.
very well
Yeah.
displayed in the TV serials and the films that we have had. But I remember one BJP minister said something in Assam or Tripura, I think, about this, that we knew about this science earlier and people made fun of him.
That is, of course, our anglicization. Yeah,
Dr. Swamy, I have a last question because we are also
Yes.
running out of time. We today's topic was lessons from Mahabharata for Indians today. You have traveled widely all over the world. You have stayed in the United States. You are knowing the various influences of various cultures and religions all over the world. How do you think is Mahabharata, or for that matter Gita, or for that matter Ramayana, influencing the entire world in some other way? How you think it is happening? We know of other religions who are doing a lot of marketing, but our core thing, which is so many thousands of years old, how is it influencing the world? If you can tell our viewers.
Well, briefly, I have to say it very briefly. It's a very big subject that you have mentioned. We are people, Hindus, who believe in what later on was called by Deen Dayal Upadhyaya as integral humanism. That is a blending of spiritual advance with material prosperity. This division of Varna, what does it show? That material prosperity is number 3. Knowledge and spiritualism is number 1. And the Brahmins were supposed to be poor. I mean, it was not a derogatory thing to be poor, because it's like Mahatma Gandhi walking with a langoti, you see. So that is the thing that the West never had. And that's why there's so much unhappiness. You don't know how much unhappiness there is in the West, in social terms, in terms of divorces and so on. So I would say that nothing of Hinduism is intrinsic to the West. Of course, now we got all these sadhus, sannyasis and all, they're opening ashrams and so on in America. People are, now coming to it. And there was once a Newsweek article that we are all now Hindus, because everything about the Hindus is scientific. They don't bury their dead, they burn them. They do this. There was a whole article in Newsweek in 2009. So I would say that West is, I don't think there's anything of Hinduism except those who go to our gurus, like that cinema actress, what's her name? She converted to Hinduism after she was convinced This is the only way to live.
Julia
I mean,
Roberts.
this is the first way. Huh?
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts, yeah. And she was an Oscar winner. I mean, there was no need for her to do it. But she also made her husband Hindu. She made her children Hindu. She goes even today in California to Hindu temples.
Okay, Arvind.
Yeah, as Dr. Swamy said, if we were to really discuss and describe each and every part of Mahabharata or the lessons which you can learn, we require 2-3 months. So in one episode, no amount of justice is possible in any way. When we had decided that we are going to wind up this program in 60 minutes and single episode, we knew that it is a hard task and it is not really possible. Each of us have many questions, the viewers have many different questions, and a person as knowledgeable as Dr. Swamy can go on answering these questions, but never the question will end, and the Dr. Swamy will continue to give the answers. And each one of us can learn so many things. And therefore, what Dr. Swamy summarized, that let us make conscious efforts to introduce the book of Gita and Mahabharata in schools and colleges. Of course, but let me also add here, in many different B schools, they have introduced their course, lessons from Mahabharata. In fact, in my university also, they have introduced their course for management students, lessons from Mahabharata. And similarly, there are many other colleges where some capsule form it is taught, but not as a full course. And if it is taught at early stage, certainly there's a lot of things, whether it is team spirit, whether it is morality, whether it is how to fight, how to combat, how to compose yourself in a fight. So many different lessons each individual and groups can learn. Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for elaborating this to our viewers and also taking a few questions. I'm afraid we cannot go beyond this. Therefore, we'll have to end this. Thanks, my co-host Jagdish Shetty ji and Ramesh Swamy ji, and the technical team behind the show, which in every episode is crossing the numbers better than the previous episode. And as Jagdish had said in the beginning, more than 1.5 lakh viewers were there in 1 week of the last program, India at 75. So thank you, viewers, for being with us and supporting us. We will continue to offer you a different content with Dr. Swamy. Next week, again, we'll come up with a new topic on a new subject and with Dr. Swamy. Sunday, 8 p.m. Till then, namaskar, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Dhanyavad.
తొందర తీసుకో